Hey Fred, can you tell how many people are watching?
Anthony will let you know. We've actually have several. We've got people on Zoom. He'll be able to give us the numbers on Facebook and on YouTube. Okay, you may want to make sure that you're on a gallery view.
But really, the value of this is people watching it their own way. Sure.
We're going to go live in 5. Stand by. Okay, starting the webinar, please stand by for introductions and introduction videos. Best wishes to everyone.
For over 100 years, Rotary members have taken action when challenges arise. We know what people can do when they come together and put others before themselves.
The team lead said they will continue the campaign to fight against the coronavirus.
Local Rotary clubs deliver food and supplies to people in need.
Strangers become friends, helping hands multiply, and problems turn into solutions. We are Rotary. We are people of action. Learn more at rotary.org/action.
Good morning. My name is Dan Worthington, and on behalf of the McAllen Rotary Clubs, welcome to the City of McAllen District 3 Commission debate. This is the third of 4 currently scheduled debates with the fourth debate for District 1 scheduled a week from today at the same time on the same platforms. The host of the first two debates and the host of the debate next week, Adam Lara, had a last-minute conflict and couldn't be here today and asked me to step in for him. Our moderator is Fred Del Barrio. Fred is a member of the McAllen Rotary Club, the original Rotary Club. And in just a few minutes after I introduce Rotary and officially open the meeting, I will turn the podium over to Fred to moderate the debate. But before we have Fred introduce the candidates, let me take a minute to introduce Rotary. What is Rotary, and who are we as the members of the City of McAllen Rotary Clubs? Rotary is a service-based organization that operates across the country and across the globe. In the City of McAllen, while we recognize the need for service globally, we understand that we live in a particular part of the country where service should, needs, and is brought first here. We don't just talk about service, we act. We have built homes for our community members in need. We give scholarships to our students in need. We have dug wells. We understand that the international border doesn't end the need for service, and when it was safe to do so, we routinely assisted with orphanages in Reynosa. Rotary has been in McAllen for over 100 years, and God willing, we're just getting started. Who are we as Rotarians? We are young professionals. We are not so young professionals. We are men, we are women, we are members from every political persuasion there is. We all share a common interest and a common goal, and that's to serve our community and to serve our globe and to serve Rotary. Indeed, that is why we're here today. We recognize that who we choose to lead our city plays an important role in the furtherance of our mission of service. The debate today is being presented on Zoom, as well as Facebook and YouTube. Though it's being shown live, it will be available for watching after today's event as well. With that, let me open our meeting. Rotary opens its meetings in the same way, whether we're in McAllen, Texas, New York City, or anywhere in the globe. We open with the prayer, the pledge, and the Rotary four-way test, which sets out the principles that guide our decisions as Rotarians. Our prayer, pledge, and four-way test today will be presented by our three club presidents. Because we are broadcasting from multiple locations, most of us behind desks, I will ask everyone to remain seated. And with that, we'll now move forward with the prayer, pledge, and four-way test.
Dear Lord, we ask Thee to bless all those gathered here today. Bless this debate, which we will all partake of, and grant unto Rotarians health and strength, and guide them as they continue to give Rotary service throughout the world. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United United States of America and to the republic for which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Please join me in the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Number 1, is it the truth? Number 2, is it fair to all concerned? Number 3, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Number 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And now to begin our District 3 debate, I will pass the baton to Fred Del Barrio. Fred, take it away.
Thank you, Dan. Hi, I'm Fred Del Barrio, a member of Rotary here in McAllen, and today's moderator. I'd like to begin by introducing our candidates and giving them time to introduce themselves as well. As Rotary, none of these candidates have received any of the questions ahead of time, and we'd like to stick to our four-way test of being truthful, fair, and being of goodwill, and making this to the benefit of all. So I'm going to begin with our first candidate in the order that they are on the ballot. And our first candidate is Mario Reyna. Mario is a local business consultant. He is the previous dean of the Division of Business, Public Safety, and Technology at the South Texas College. He was there from '96 to February of 2020. He served in our Air Force for nearly 20 years. His education comes from a Master in Public Administration in 1993 from Webster University in San Antonio, Texas. He has a business management degree from University of Laverne, and he has a certification in business administration and materials management. So he has been at acquisition school for the U.S. Air Force, professional military controller school, also U.S. Air Force, financial management staff officer course, USAF, budget officer school, USAF, squadron officer school in leadership, officers training school, total quality management, recruiting school, and non-commissioned officer leadership school, all U.S. Air Force. He has also received numerous awards and honors, including 2 meritorious service medals awarded for outstanding performance as Chief, Budget Branch, and Headquarters Financial Management Officer, 3 Air Force Commendation Medals awarded for outstanding achievement as a Budget Officer, Resource Management Officer, and Financial Management Officer. He is an honored graduate of the Financial Staff Officers course in 1993 and honored graduate of Basic Military Training School. Mario, thank you for your service to our country, and I now pass the microphone to you so that you may introduce yourself.
Well, thank you so much, Fred, and thank you so much, Rotary, and the city of McAllen, and all of you that are watching this. I grew up in the Valley, just like many of you. I started my life in Mission, Texas. I moved around a little bit. I finally settled in Alton, what is now Alton. Back then, we just called it a place. So this is where I've been. I did join the Air Force, like Fred talked about. I was gone for 20 years. I came back in 1996. So I've been here ever since then. I moved to McAllen back in 2006. So I've been a very huge part of the DNA of the Valley. So I think I consider myself to be total McAllen and total RGV. So my message to the public is very simple. I'm telling my message is that I believe in prosperity. And so when we talk about prosperity, what exactly does that mean? Well, what I'm trying to say is that we need to have economic well-being. We have a very good example right now of what happens when you don't have economic well-being. Look at all the immigrants that are coming across the border. They're not coming across because they like us. They're coming across because they don't have economic well-being wherever they are. So in order to have economic well-being, I think we need to become more efficient in the things that we do. When people want to invest in our community, we should open up our doors and show them the way. I think there are many, many companies out there that would want to come to McAllen, and we want to show them the right way how to invest in our community. So when you invest in our community, what happens? Well, a lot of things happen. First of all, is that you have economic development. But by having economic development, it means that many people will have jobs. Architects, engineers, plumbers, all kinds of individuals will be working. And then our local economy will also be expanding because they have to use a lot of resources, local resources, to get their operations going. Another message that I have is that we want McAllen to become a destination city. We know that we have a great shopping experience here in McAllen. We have the mall, we have the Palms Crossing, we have all kinds of activities going on. But making McAllen a destination city means that we have to have major attractions. And that's what I think we should be looking at. Fred, are we talking about 15 seconds total?
Yes, your time is actually is up now.
Okay.
Okay. So our next candidate that is up is our current McAllen City Commissioner for District 3, Omar Quintanilla. He has been serving our district since 2017. He has been a strong advocate of issues related to drainage improvement, beautification projects, and creating safer neighborhoods, along with assisting small businesses and seeking ongoing economic development opportunities and job creation. He is seeking re-election for a second term in order to continue to meet the needs of his district while also providing excellent oversight on city at-large issues. A native of Mission, Texas, upon his high school graduation, Omar attended St. Mary's University in San Antonio, where he graduated with an emphasis in corporate finance in 1994. He is currently a senior vice president at Frost Bank in McAllen, where he handles middle market corporate accounts. He has helped many small businesses start up operations locally with guidance and knowledge of small business administration programs. Omar has a strong appreciation for meeting business and community needs on a broad basis, and as well as focusing on the underserved. He has served in leadership roles for various community organizations such as the Community Block Development Block Grant Committee, McAllen Library Board, Amigos del Valle, McAllen Chamber of Commerce, and McAllen Development Corporation, and he is a graduate of Leadership McAllen's Class 20. Omar?
Thank you, Fred, and thank you to the McAllen Rotary Clubs for hosting this event. It's been an honor and a privilege to have served the citizens of McAllen over the last 4 years. As your McAllen District 3 Commissioner, I have been serving the community over the last 20 years in various roles. As Fred mentioned, I graduated from St. Mary's University, and immediately after that, started to get involved in our community. I joined Leadership McAllen, which was really the start of my community involvement. Right after Leadership McAllen Class 20, I joined the Community Development Board, where I was chairman of the board for 3 out of the 6 years. Got to learn about our CDBG program and the federal funds that we received from HUD. And after the Community Development Board, I joined the Library Board, where I got to be president of that board for a number of years as well. After Leadership McAllen and after these advisory boards, I joined the Amigos del Valle board, where I've been able to provide leadership to the senior citizen community, and in terms of Meals on Wheels and in terms of living facilities for them. I'm running to keep McAllen a vibrant city, a city that continues to lead our region in terms of quality of life and in terms of really entertainment, all the offerings that we have here in McAllen. And I appreciate your vote and your support.
Thank you, Omar. Our next candidate is Thelma Elizabeth Tamez. She is here from McAllen, and she is seeking City Commissioner Post 3. Thelma is a local entrepreneur who serves as the president of La Encantada Diversity, Equality, and Inclusion, and is part of the T-Mobile USA Mission Call Center's leadership team. Thelma is the daughter of late businessman Sergio Tamez and Ida Tamez, a 20-year veteran in the McAllen ISD kitchen department. She feels lucky to be part of the McAllen community since birth and has put down roots in this community that has given back so much to her. Thelma received her education from McAllen ISD and graduated from Rowe High School in 2006. She later attended South Texas College in McAllen and graduated from the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley in 2017 with a bachelor's degree in psychology. Thelma's commitment to her McAllen community has catapulted her into many leadership roles. Thelma is a current member of the Junior League of McAllen, RGV Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Hispanic Women's of Texas Network, Village in the Valley, and serves as the president of the Organization of Women's Executives. Thelma, I now pass the microphone to you. Thank you. Thelma, you have to unmute yourself. Sorry.
Yes. Good afternoon, and thank you so much to the McAllen Rotary for hosting these great debates. My name is Thelma Tamez, and I'm currently seeking a position with the McAllen City Commissioner, District 3. I am extremely passionate about the district, mainly because District 3 is home for me, and McAllen, District 3's family and McAllen is home for me. I have been working with T-Mobile for the past 13 years. Through T-Mobile, I've had the opportunity to work with the corporation that's in the 1450. I had the opportunity to learn great skills and competencies when it comes to having the best places to work, not only in Texas, but in the US. Those kinds of skills I'm hoping to bring to small business in the Valley. I know that McAllen has one of the best people in our region, and I know that we could have the best places to work, live in Texas and in the US. I'm extremely passionate about youth and food security, McAllen ISD with the partnerships, of course, also with the growth and making sure that a city is still safe and that we're able to go ahead and produce a small business. I'm available with any questions or concerns at any moment. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, Thelma, and thank you to our candidates for their introductions. We're now going to begin with our District 3 debate. For our first question, we will begin with Commissioner Omar Quintanilla, and we'll follow with Thelma Tamez and Mario Reyna. I'm going to ask each candidate to remember to unmute their microphone when it's their turn to speak, and to mute themselves again afterwards. And hopefully I can remember to do the same myself. Okay, Omar, you ready?
Yes, ready.
Okay, let's begin. Okay, question one is, do you have any experience, skills, or abilities that set you apart from your opponents?
Thank you for that question. Yes, I've been a banker for the last 22 years. And because of my experience and my career, I've been able to visit with companies over that amount of time and visit with them about what their needs are, to be able to meet their needs, be able to talk about issues that they come up with as they're dealing with the city, issues that they deal with employment and growth. And so the skills that I have as a banker and as somebody who's been a member of the business community for a long time sets me apart from my opponents, and is needed in our community, because the business community needs to remain strong because they're who provide employment opportunities for the residents of McAllen. And it's those jobs, the employment opportunities, that helps increase our quality of life here. That's the most important thing that helps to increase quality of life. It's employment and job opportunities. And so that's what sets me apart.
Great. Thank you, Omar. Our next candidate, Ms. Thelma Tamez, the same question. Do you have any experience, skills, or abilities that set you apart from your opponents?
In the past 13 years that I've had the opportunity to work with T-Mobile, I've had the opportunity to gain leadership skills, not only at the front line, but all the way to senior leadership when it comes to also working with a diverse group of background. I had the opportunity to be able to manage projects with different budgets to make sure that we execute, either if it's in a timely manner. I also have the opportunity, and I won't shy away, to making decisions that are going to be the right fit for our community, making sure that also that if I need to approach the experts matter, I'll be the first one to tell you that I'm not an expert in every single skill that there's out there that it's needed when it comes to the city, but I am willing to request and gather feedback from the expert matter, whether if it's from the directors of parks, whether if it's from the chiefs of police, which is the firefighters. I am a firm believer that majority of the solutions, we could get them from our front line, from our people that are actually exposed to any issue. As a leader, it's one of the things that I'm a big fan of, is to make sure that our community and our residents always come first, making sure that I'm approachable to them, to be accessible for them to reach out to me, to create a plan and to create an execution. Something that we've learned through COVID is that we need to be extremely mindful and being able to pivot when it comes to changes. How can we go ahead and help businesses get creative to making changes from like dining in to going and do curbside? So one of the things is that I'm extremely passionate about continuing my growth and my learning to making sure that we're able to provide to our residents. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Thelma. Mario Reyna, you're up next. Do you have any experience, skills, or abilities that set you apart from your opponents?
Absolutely. I'm a retired military officer, and having been an officer, I went through officer training school and squadron officer school. And what do those schools do? They prepare you for leadership. Those schools each one of them was 12 weeks and 10 weeks long. So that's a superior education in leadership that I have. In addition to that, I went through 3 very powerful schools, the Budget Officer School, the Air Force Finance and Officer School, and the Professional Military Comptroller School. Those schools have prepared me to deal with any kind of financial situation that one can encounter. When I arrived at SBC, I was the director of the Division of Business, and then eventually I became the dean for Business, Public Safety, and Technology. So in those roles, I was out in the community developing all kinds of programs that the community is benefiting right now, because we created, welding programs, the electrician programs, business programs, and the big one that here at the end of my career was the Regional Center for Public Safety Excellence. So all of our police, well, I won't say all of our police, but many of our police officers and firefighters go through those programs, and that's something that that I started. So having been the dean for 20 some odd years prepared me for almost anything that one can encounter. So being in part of city commission, for example, there's nothing that they do there that's going to put me to say, wow, I wonder how they do that, because I have the experience and the skill to do anything that they do there.
Okay. Thank you, Mario. Our next question 2 will go in this order. It'll be Thelma Tamez, Mario Reyna, and then Omar Quintanilla. Ms. Tamez, the city is slated to receive over $42 million of COVID relief. As a city commissioner, how would you plan on spending those funds?
One of the important things is to make sure that we could be able to provide more assistance. I know that right now we have programs for rent assistance, for any type of home assistance. We want to be able to follow up, because I know that sometimes a lot of folks were impacted in a sense where they deferred their payments, whether if it's their vehicle, their home. We could go ahead and provide a transparent way of applying for roles. Not only that, but also our small business. We need to go ahead and make sure if you drive through 495 or through 23rd, you're able to go ahead and see a lot of empty businesses that unfortunately were impacted. I know that we currently have some grants available, but are small business aware that they could go ahead and apply for this? Making sure that we're providing that communication for them to be able to go ahead and invest. Not only that, but also provide some kind of reward, partner with McAllen ISD for our teachers, our bus drivers. They've been working day in and day out through the pandemic. They haven't been able to stay home, because if they stay home, unfortunately, some students will be impacted through food security. Unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to have like a metro system and they wouldn't have continued. So providing some type of assistance to get back will be something that I will look forward to. Thank you.
Thank you. Next candidates that will be answering the question is Mario Reyna. Mario, the city is slated to receive over $42 million of COVID relief. as city commissioner, how would you plan on spending those funds?
Thank you for the question. I think I follow Thelma's thoughts. The small business community has been hurt severely. I can remember when the pandemic started back in March, and then all of a sudden all the small businesses started closing down. So, I would feel their pain because I can only imagine how much money they were bleeding every day. So my proposal would be that we do everything we can to support them as much as we can, set up a process that is fair and distribute the money accordingly. We are in a new environment, so I would suggest that we spend a little bit more money in trying to educate all of the small businesses in what it takes nowadays to operate in this unique environment that we have. I don't know that this situation is going to go away anytime soon, and so we're going to continue operating the way we are. So we need to educate people as much as we can on what's going on. One of the things that if we're going to continue getting relief from the government, a lot of folks do not know, for example, how to apply for those grants. So as the city, as the Chamber of Commerce, all those entities that are within the city, we need to do everything that we can to educate our community so they can get their share of money.
Thank you, Mario. Commissioner Quintanilla, the question is, the city is slated to receive over $42 million of COVID relief. As city commissioner, how would you plan on spending that money?
Thank you for that question. We're in a unique situation where, last year we were awarded $18.9 million from CARES Act monies. And this year we're slated to receive upwards of $40 million. What I would do with the $40 million would first concentrate on infrastructure spending. We have some areas of the district that have infrastructure that is not up to par. We have areas that have wastewater pipes that are not wide enough to meet the needs of the area. We have areas that don't have adequate sidewalks or don't have sidewalks at all, or cracked sidewalks. So I would first concentrate on infrastructure spending. Second, I would go back and do a small business grant, kind of a 2.0. We did it last year, upwards of $1 million, where we were able to allocate to small businesses to help them during the pandemic. And I would go and do that again because, as has been mentioned, the small business community has been affected. They've gone through a lot, and we need to take care of our small business community.
Thank you, Commissioner. Our next question is going to go, let me see, it's going to go, Mario Reyna, Thelma Tamez, and Commissioner Quintanilla. Well, let me see, this is not correct. We've got, it should go Mario Reyna, Thelma. Well, let's do it this way, and I'll figure it out on the next one. I'm trying to be as fair as I can, but let's begin the next question. Have you started a question, Ms. Tamez? Yes, you did, right? Okay, so let's begin the next.
Mario, Omar, and then myself.
Yes, sorry about that. Mario, you're going to get the next question first, and this has turned from a debate to a little bit of comedy here. But the next question is, what do you think is the responsibility of the city with regards to immigration?
Well, the response to this would be that the city does not have any oversight on what's going on the border. It's a federal activity, and the federal government should be responsible. Now, as far as the city is concerned, what the city is doing right now is probably the best thing we can do. We need to get the nonprofits involved to help those that need help. And if the city can get reimbursed for some of the activities that are going on, then the city should probably provide some services. But Beyond that, we would have to just get all the nonprofits involved and to make sure that the immigrants are getting the proper help that they have, that they need. And that's about the extent of the city.
Thank you, Mario. The question now goes to Thelma Tamez. What do you think is the responsibility of the city with regards to
it's Mr. Omar.
immigration? Oh, Mr. Quintanilla. Sorry about that. Okay.
Sure, I'll answer the question. Fred, thank you for that question. The city's responsibility, first and foremost, is to ensure the safety and security of our residents. That should be priority. Beyond that, we need to have a compassionate approach to the way we deal with this program. Asylum seekers are crossing our border, and it's right. The federal government is responsible to process, but beyond that, they come into the jurisdiction of the city, and they are trying to get to their final destination, which is typically to get into our bus terminal and to get into to travel to their destination. And so we've been working with Catholic Charities to ensure that they, if they arrive after the bus terminal closes, that they have a place to stay overnight so that they're not wandering the downtown area. And so we need to continue to plan with our nonprofit organizations, especially Catholic Charities, to help them along their journey so that they have a compassionate and a good experience as they move along into their final destination.
Thank you, Commissioner. Ms. Tamez, the question is, what do you think is the responsibility of the city with regards to immigration?
The responsibility to immigration of the city, right now they're doing a great job when it comes to collaborating with nonprofits. It's extremely important for us to continue the communication with our federal and the state to make sure that we're providing those resources for us to be able to have a fluent change and transfer. Immigration has always been a concern when it comes to the country. It's not something that is new. It's something that we need to continue supporting and making sure that we're very collaborative when it comes to creating a plan. The nonprofits have been a great resource. We need to go ahead and make sure that our city is safe, making sure that there's the plan, and of course, making sure that we're communicating with the federals, with the Fed.
Thank you, Mr. Tamez. Okay, our next question for question number 4, Ms. Thelma Tamez, you will begin, followed by Commissioner Quintanilla, and then Mr. Mario Reyna. Question number 4, after studying the city budget and expenditures, how would you allocate funds after you're elected?
One of the important things is for us to make sure that we continue with a diverse process and of course with transparency. When it comes to our infrastructure, it's extremely important for us to make sure that we keep investing. I think yesterday I heard someone mention that it probably almost took like 2 hours for them to get from Jackson to La Jolla, which right now that's extremely difficult, especially for anyone that's commuting. Making sure that we're investing in our EDC, in our development growth, in order for us to be able to make sure that we're providing not only the best places to work here in McAllen, but in the region. That's how we're going to be able to not only continue to retain talent, develop talent, and making sure that we're able to attract talent and provide growth. So ultimately making sure that also within our schools, that's an extremely important factor for us to go ahead and continue in investing. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Quintanilla, after studying the city budget and expenditures, how would you allocate the funds after you're elected?
Well, the allocation of funds is something that is very important. It's something that I look at very closely, not only at budget time, but throughout the year. As commissioners, we're looking at our district and trying to prioritize the needs of our district, so that as commissioners, if we're all looking at our own districts and meeting those needs, then the entire city's needs will be met. And so what we need to do as a city is be as efficient as possible, so that we have as much resources that are available to be able to tackle the major needs that are there, to build on the infrastructure that we have and to make it better, and ultimately to increase the quality of life of our residents. But the key there is, number one, to be more efficient, but also to increase our revenue sources. As we know, the city of McAllen has revenue sources from sales tax revenue, but we also have it from the bridge and from other sources. So efficiency is important, but also increase our income sources that the city has.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Reyna, after studying the city budget and expenditures, how would you allocate the funds after you're elected?
Thank you for the question. I think to remain prosperous, we need to make sure that the police and the fire departments are well funded. If we're not protected in the community, then we will not have investors come to our city. So that would be one of my first things, that we need to make sure that they are well funded so we can maintain the peace and people feel comfortable, and then you'll get the investors to come into our city. Another thing is that we need to make sure that the infrastructure is working properly. We have some areas in the city that still apparently get flooded, so we would have to make sure that those areas do not get flooded anymore. Traffic is the big issue for me, and I think I've said it a few times that I've been around the world a couple times and I've seen how other people drive. So we need to make sure that that we are mobile. If we're not mobile, then people will not come to our city. When I get on the highway, go to Harlingen, it takes me 35 minutes. It probably takes me 40 minutes just to get around town to a certain location. So traffic has to be decided. Another issue for me is parks. We need to make sure that our community has ample parks. I don't have to explain all the reasons why, because it's a good, healthy thing to do. When you have parks, people will go out to the parks, they'll walk and take their kids. So we will have a healthy community. So parks is going to be something that I will consider very highly.
Thank you, Mr. Reyna. Okay, I'm going to have I have a follow-up question now to the city budget. And this, we're going to continue. We'll start this one with Commissioner Quintanilla, and then Mr. Reyna, and then Ms. Tamez. The question is do you foresee a bond issue in the near future?
Thanks for that question. I don't foresee a bond issue in the foreseeable future. We had one in 2018. The residents approved a bond issue for drainage improvements, and that is the only that's a reason why I would be in favor of doing a bond or financing a project through a bond, would be for projects that we're all going to take advantage of, which includes drainage and traffic improvements. I don't foresee that we're going to need to do that in the near future. The city's revenues have been increasing over the last few months, and with the amount of stimulus monies that we received last year and we are receiving this year, it's going to be a significant injection of liquidity into the city, which will not necessitate financing for the foreseeable future.
Thank you. Mr. Reyna, do you foresee a bond issue in McAllen's future?
At this point, I don't, but if one came, I would obviously encourage to look at the things that I have talked about. And so to me, the infrastructure will be something that we need to look closely at, because when someone's home gets flooded, their quality of life goes out the door. Traffic again is something that we really need to look at. We probably need to study this very carefully and have change the way we conduct our traffic. I think I've talked to folks before that in Europe, for example, they have a lot of roundabouts and there's hardly any stops anywhere. So this is something that requires study. And this is, I would encourage individuals to do this. But as far as in the foreseeable future, I don't see a bond coming. But if it does, this are some of the areas that I would recommend.
Thank you, Mr. Reyna. Ms. Tamez, do you foresee a bond issue in McAllen's near future?
Just like our two, Mr. Reyna, Mr. Quintanilla, I don't foresee a bond issue happening in the foreseeable future now. But if 2020 has taught us anything, is that we definitely need to be aware of changes and having the need of being able to pivot. One of the only things is that we could only really guarantee is making sure that if it were to come, that as a city commissioner, we need to go ahead and be extremely transparent with our residents, making sure that we approach the federal, the state, making sure that we communicate and reach out to any resources that could potentially be available before implementing or trying to approve a bond. So of course, if it were to come, it is important for us to be transparent, be able to communicate, and give the residents the choice of being able to vote or decide on to approve or not approve the bond. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, for question 6, we're going to begin with Ms. Tamez, followed by Mr. Reyna, and then Mr. Quintanilla. Question 6 has to do with our downtown. Mr. Tamez, do you think our downtown is healthy and successful? And if not, what would you do to change things?
The downtown at the moment is, of course, it's attracting the younger generation that they just go and celebrate and use that as their social outings. We do have some business owners that are using those downtown bars to definitely provide revenue for them. It is important that for everything is for us to be able to find a balance, to be able to make sure to collaborate with our police department, making sure our fire department, of course, providing them the resources and the tools to have enough folks staff to be able to help and provide a safe environment. We want to make sure that we gather feedback from the bar owners on how we could go ahead and help them. If we need to go ahead and provide some kind of assistance, some kind of training. Bars are available in all big cities. It's something that attracts a lot of. For example, if you go to New York, they have their bar areas. If you go ahead and go to Austin, they have 6th Street. So it's ultimately finding the balance and making sure that we provide them the resources for it to be safe. Being able to communicate with them, getting ideas from them. So it's important to be able to continue having those open areas of communication. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miss. Mr. Reyna, do you think McAllen's downtown is healthy and successful? And if not, what would you do to change it?
The downtown area is doing well, but I think, when I travel around the state, I see a lot of areas that we could duplicate. For example, if you've been to Bernie, if you've been to Comfort, Texas, Fredericksburg, I think those areas give you a good example of what we could do with the downtown area. And also, I know Thelma talked about Austin. I've been on that street many times myself, and it is a very lively street. But one thing that we will always have to do if we're going to have a entertainment area like it is downtown right now, then we would have to make sure that there's enough police activity in the area to make sure that everybody is safe. But I would recommend to the city, that in order to make downtown a little bit more attractive, then you're gonna have to set up more restaurants. You're gonna have to set up maybe art galleries, those kind of things that will appeal to many more people and not just make it an evening activity. So that's where I would put my money, that we have to create a downtown similar to what I have seen in other parts of Texas, and they are extremely successful. And if entrepreneurs out there keep thinking about renovating and recreating the downtown area.
Thank you, Mr. Reyna. Commissioner Quintanilla, do you think our downtown is healthy and successful? And if not, what would you do to change it?
I think we have a great downtown area with restaurants and shopping opportunities. I think that if you look at the dynamics downtown, we have some really nice restaurants and some shopping opportunities, like I mentioned. But we're a little over concentrated, I think, in bars along 17th Street, and it's difficult to manage as a city. It's hard to say, well, you can only have a certain amount of bars here, or you can only have coffee shops, or you can only have sandwich shops. It's kind of dictated by the market. But what I would do is try to incentivize these retail, small business, either coffee shops, something to make it more of a family-friendly environment downtown, so that we drive more traffic into the area. The downtown area has been affected for several years because of COVID, because of the lack of shopping, lack of traffic coming in from Mexico. And so to the extent that as a city we can concentrate our efforts to helping them, I would be in favor of it. So we need a balance between what we have between the bars and the retails and restaurants that we have downtown.
Thank you, Commissioner. For our next question, we'll begin with Mr. Reyna, followed by Mr. Quintanilla, and last Ms. Tamez. The question is rather lighthearted question. If you had visitors come in from out of town, what are your favorite places in McAllen to take them to?
Well, there's a lot of great places to go to. So I think I would probably take them, if it's a real formal situation, I would probably want to take them to the Santa Fe Steakhouse. I think the food is great. I like the music. For breakfast, I would probably want to take them to Morados, for example, on 23rd Street. The crowd is fantastic. They make some great tacos, great chorizo con huevos, and great, just anything that you like, you can get it there also. Another place that I like a lot is the Republic of the Rio Grande. It's a great place. They have a great menu. I go there a lot, a lot. And if it's another breakfast situation, there's a small place on 23rd, and it has a very unusual name. They go Los Mismos de Siempre. I'm always curious how they come up with those names. So one day I'm going to ask you, how did you come up with that name? But Los Mismos, they make their own tortillas right on the spot, and they are great. So I would recommend anyone coming into McAllen to visit those places.
Thank you, Mr. Reyna. Okay, Commissioner Quintanilla, you had visitors come in from out of town. What are your favorite places in McAllen to take them to?
Well, there's a number of wonderful restaurants. So I would pick between the great offerings that we've got, whether it's in the downtown area along 10th Street, the ones that Mr. Reyna mentioned, and there are plenty others that I would take them. But I would also take them to the museums that we've got. Obviously, we have IMAS that's been around for quite some time. Both science and art combined into one area. Also, the historical museum, that's downtown. Many visitors from out of town go to the historical museum to learn about McAllen's past and history. And so I would definitely take them there. But I love to take people to Quinta Mazatlan it's a gem that we have in McAllen. Especially when the temperature is in the just right, around the 60s, 70s, and even 80s. You want to go to Quintanilla, enjoy the outdoors, and take them for a nature walk and trail. And so along closer to District 3 is the Nature Center, just south of Business 83, on the south side of Business 83. The Nature Center is nice, and I would definitely take them there as well. Many places to go in McAllen, and I would choose between a number of those.
Thank you, Commissioner. Ms. Tamez, if you have visitors come in from out of town, what are your favorite places in McAllen to take them to?
Of course, Mr. Reyna and Mr. Quintanilla mentioned some of my favorite restaurants, and I'm a big foodie, so that's probably, I love food. But other than just to go ahead and food, of course, when anybody that comes and visits me, I like to go ahead and definitely go for walks or runs in the morning. So we definitely do visit Benson Trail. Another thing that I would definitely do is I always take them to my friends' small businesses. So what I'll do, I'll have them shop at my favorite spots, anything from Reyna, even from Cupcakes from Cece's Cupcakes, Shop 112. I have a small cakes. There's a lot of different small business that, of course, they wanting to go ahead and spend money. I'm going to treat them to one of my favorites, small business that are in the area. Of course, towards the end of the night, I love carne asada. So I definitely love barbecue. So we would definitely go and get some carne asada from either Fajita House, or there's another one that's new on Ware Road to barbecue. And of course, you can't let them leave without having sweet bread from the Alba or Paris Bakery. So that's probably how my tour would go across McAllen. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess it's that's why it's such a pleasure to serve this city, is that we've got a lot of great places to go to. Thank you. Our next question, we're going to go with Commissioner Quintanilla first, followed by Ms. Tamez, and then lastly, Mr. Reyna. And this question is, what is your vision for McAllen Airport?
The McAllen Airport, we've been making some improvements to the McAllen Airport. We have been concentrating on increasing international flights. And so I think you'll have noticed that Omar has a new direct flight to Monterrey now, which is going to improve our retail offerings here, because people that couldn't come across the bridge can now fly from Monterrey to McAllen, shop at La Plaza, shop at our small business shops, and then go back to Monterrey. And so, we just need to continue to do that, to have direct flights to key destinations. Our Las Vegas flight has been very successful for a long time. And so we need to continue to look at destinations like these to be able to provide our residents opportunities to fly to other locations, and then to have those areas fly into McAllen, so that we continue to be a destination city as we have been. And so that's what I would do: concentrate on new flights and look at opportunities for new airlines coming into McAllen.
Thank you, Commissioner. Ms. Tamez, what is your vision of McAllen Airport?
So my vision is attached to my experience that I've had with McAllen Airport. With T-Mobile, we have the opportunity where we sometimes get assigned to multiple projects. I've had the opportunity, like for some years, where I would have to travel to Seattle like 3 or 4 times a year. I have other coworkers that have to travel to the Philippines, to Colombia, to just different either countries or cities across the U.S. One of the things, and even when we talk to other coworkers and other from different cities, is that if they're going to come into Mission to McAllen, there's always a stop. And I think like it's because we're not a hub. So we tend to sometimes lose a lot of business because sometimes you're like, I'd rather drive to San Antonio, or I'd rather drive to Austin or Houston because I'll probably be able to get in another flight faster than actually having to fly from McAllen, Houston, or McAllen, Dallas, Seattle, Dallas, Chicago, or where you're going to be going. So my vision for the airport, based on the experiences that I've had as a consumer, is making sure that we're providing a lot more flights available, like Mr. Quintanilla said, making sure that we're communicating and adding value to both aspects, in the sense to folks that are traveling, but folks that are coming in, making sure that we're continuing to be the best city to travel for, and people could be able to come to visit us as a region. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Reyna, what is your vision for McAllen Airport?
That is a great question. But I have to be extremely honest with all of you that the airport has lived its useful life. You know, if we're going to continue to grow, we need to go elsewhere. And we probably, I don't know if the Moorfield has been annexed by the city, but that would be a great location for a future airport. You know, I'm old enough to remember that I used to fly to Hobby in Houston. So what did they do in Houston? Well, they created a new airport. I'm old enough to remember that I used to fly into Love Field, and you know what happened there. So if we are going to grow, but we need to understand that this airport has limited capacity. You know, the flight path, you cannot construct on the flight path into the airport. I remember going to the drive-in there on 23rd, and they had to take it off because the pilots would be fixated on the movies playing on the drive-in. So you can't build. So we need to be thinking about where else can we go. And for me, the abandoned Air Force Base would be a great location because there's nothing around it. You have plenty of room to build a fantastic airport. Look what happened in Austin. Austin went to an abandoned Air Force Base, burst from Austin. So we need to be thinking about that. We need to think about the future. This airport has limited years left, and we need to think about going someplace else.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Reyna. Our next question, the order will go Ms. Tamez, Mr. Quintanilla, and Mr. Reyna. Ms. Tamez, how do you plan to make yourself accessible to your constituents?
I'm currently working on my 30-60-90 plan for after election. One of the important things is to make sure to host quarterly meetings with our residents. When it comes to the accessibility, all my information is available. I can't promise that you will get a text or a reply within a matter of an hour, mainly because I could potentially be like working in my functional job, in a meeting, or of course, volunteering. Of course, I will definitely follow up. I will definitely go ahead and reach out to you, whether if it's via email, there's phone numbers. I'm sorry, my dogs right now are the ones that are causing that noise. So this is what happens with Zoom. But right now, apparently my dogs are the ones that need me. But going back to your question, all of my phone number has always been available, and you could always reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tamez. Commissioner Quintanilla, how do you plan to make yourself accessible to your constituents?
Thank you for that question. It's very important to be accessible to constituents. I've had town halls throughout my term. I've had neighborhood meetings throughout my term. One of those neighborhood meetings resulted in a beautification project along Ware Road and Vine Avenue that has really helped the area there to look more vibrant. And so as your commissioner, I will be as accessible as possible. My contact information is readily available either through phone, through email, social media. We're available to meet the needs of the community, and as accessible as I can be, I will be, so that constituents know that if they're needing something from the city and they're not getting an answer, or they need some assistance, they can definitely reach out, and I'm there to help them. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Reyna, how do you plan to make yourself accessible to your constituents?
Well, I have a lot of time, let me tell you. My phone number is readily available. Anyone can call me. Like Omar was saying, we're involved with all kinds of social media. So I get messages all the time and I answer them. I think people want to meet on a regular basis. We can set up locations. There's plenty of nice locations where we can meet, and I would be there to answer their questions. I think during the last few days, last few weeks, we have been walking around, so we have gotten to know a lot of the folks that live in our district. So I think that's another way of doing it. We can always, walk through the neighborhoods and say hi to people, but I think if we have regular sessions, maybe on a quarterly or monthly, where you make yourself available to the community, they will come up. But I think nowadays there's so many ways to communicate that whatever they prefer, I'm available to whatever method they want to communicate. So I will let them decide, but I will invite them to any location that they want to go to.
Thank you, Mr. Reyna. Our next question will begin with Commissioner Quintanilla, followed by Mr. Reyna, and then Ms. Tamez. This question has to do with our zoning codes. Do you approve of our current zoning codes? And if not, what would you change?
Our zoning codes are important because it allows for orderly growth throughout our city. We're currently in the process of reorganizing our master plan. And I think this is going to be an ideal time for somebody like myself to be able to provide input on that master plan, and so that our city continues to grow in an orderly fashion. The current zoning that we have is based on a master plan that we've developed over a number of years for orderly growth. However, when it comes to issues like a liquor store going into a certain area, conditional use permits are required, and we get to take a look at that individually and be able to decide after talking to the residents and having discussion openly during city commission meeting if that's appropriate for that location. But overall, I think our zoning is appropriate. But every conditional use permit, I think we ought to scrutinize and make sure that it's appropriate for the location that they're trying to put that particular business in.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Reyna, do you approve of our current zoning codes? And if not, what would you do to change them?
I've lived here since 2006, and obviously I love McAllen. Everything is growing great. There are occasions when situations happen and we set up a business that might not be in the right place, but overall, I think there's nothing wrong with the way we're doing business. The only thing that I would recommend is that whatever we're doing, we're probably going to have to become more efficient in the way we process our permits, because people are out there waiting for the city to provide them a service. So the longer they wait, the longer they have to pay interest on whatever they have pending. So the city, as far as I'm concerned, the city is growing in a beautiful way. But there will be special situations, I think, that we need to figure out completely. And there's I remember when SDC was created, it was a small institution, but throughout the years, it became a very large institution, and traffic became a problem. So obviously, those are things that when you allow someone to build something, we need to consider the complete impact that it's going to have in that neighborhood. So those are the things that I would be looking into.
Thank you, Mr. Reyna. Ms. Tamez, do you approve of McAllen's current zoning codes? And if not, what would you change?
I do approve of the zoning codes that the city has been doing. The city commissioners, they've been doing a great job when it comes to planning. Of course, there's opportunity and growth. Even with everything, you always want to make sure that you stay a step ahead. You want to be able to continue to innovate, not just gathering from best practices from our region, but mainly from other cities. It is important to make sure to take everything in consideration from the residents that are going to be impacted. As Mr. Reyna said, the traffic, SCC, I live in that area where having to take 495 when there's school, it could be chaotic. So I'm extremely of a fan of STC, but it does create that traffic. So just taking into consideration and also being aware like, hey, okay, I might have to take 5 more minutes, but look at the growth that STC has done. So making sure to prevent the education and the value of how it's helping our residents, because sometimes we might be a little bit concerned like, okay, I'm going to have to add 5 more minutes, but look at how much great employer STC has done, how much education it has provided. But sharing those values to our residents could definitely change the mindset of like having to take 5 more minutes of our commute. So yes, I do definitely trust what the city has been doing, and I do continue to make sure that there's always growth as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tamez. For our next question, we'll begin with Mr. Reyna, followed by Ms. Tamez, and then Mr. Quintanilla. You know, as the moderator of this debate, and since we've had 2 other debates, this question has come up, and some of the concerns have been that, you know, some of the campaigns that have come in recent years through our city and really state and federal government as well, is the amount of expenses that it takes to run a campaign. And so our question number 11 is, who are your 3 largest contributors?
So, you know, that I have to think about who they are, but I think it's Xavi. He's with the domain development. I think it's you want me to give you names? Is that what it is?
Yeah, and you know, we're not necessarily amounts, or you know, if you have a lot of small contributors, you can explain it that way. But if you have some large contributors, that I think the public would like to know.
Sure. I mean, it's going to be in public documents here very soon. Anyway, but yeah, so domain Xavi with domain development. I think Mike Rhodes, Nicholas Rhodes. Those are some of the individuals that have contributed to me. Obviously, there's a lot more that have done so, but mainly business people. Some friends that I know have contributed, but those are mainly the individuals that have contributed to my campaign.
Thank you, Mr. Reyna. Ms. Tamez, who are your 3 largest contributors?
With my campaign, and I've been always very vocal that it's being run by trailblazers with different amounts of contributions. I know small contribution, it is so small. Even a $5 donation, it gets you a yard sign. So ever since, I always made it very open to anyone to be able to contribute to us, whether if it was $5, $10, $20, $30, because that helps us continue going. We do have great ladies that have been promoting and helping me out from the Organization of Women Executives. I have like Sarah Hammond, Girla Gonzalez, I have Gisela Posada. They've been extremely beneficial when it comes to my campaign. Also, one of my main goals is because when I noticed my campaign is that we do invest a lot of funds in a lot of things. My main goal was to make sure that we were supporting small business from the community. So for example, if I was purchasing food, like, are we going to buy tacos from a small business? Los Mismos, of course, because they've become very popular. Like Mr. Reyna said, those tacos are flour tortillas and fajita the community has been looking out for. Anything that we do, even like in our marketing, is making sure that we're investing and giving back to the community. So it's something that has been a big role for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tamez. Commissioner, who are your three largest contributors?
Three largest contributors. I've been getting contributions from businessmen, from people that know me, that I've worked with for a number of years, and so that's mostly who has been supporting my campaign. In terms of individuals or who's supporting, one contributor is Robert Martinez, who's a businessman. Another is Kirk Clark, who is also a businessman. Lineberger has also made a contribution. And so in terms of the top three, I think those are the top three right there.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, it's come to the end of our debate. I appreciate the time for all of our candidates for being here. I appreciate your candidness, openness, and willingness to answer our questions. Some of them were pretty lighthearted, and some of them were a little tough. So I appreciate you, and I'm going to pass the microphone now to. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm going to pass to each of you. You have a 2-minute closing, and I was forgetting about that. Good thing I have help here. We're going to start the closing comments with Ms. Thelma Tamez, and followed by Commissioner Quintanilla, and then lastly with Mr. Reyna. So Thelma, I pass the floor to you now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the Rotary Club for organizing this. This is extremely helpful and beneficial for our residents to be able to go ahead and connect with us. Please don't just shy away from the debate. Feel free to reach out to me. I am Thelma Tamez, and I'm seeking election for McAllen City Commissioner, District 3. I'm extremely passionate when it comes to our development of our district. Ultimately, my main goal is to make sure that our district gets the same benefits, and I'll fight to make sure that we get an equal opportunity like the remaining of the districts. I'm extremely passionate about. We currently will continue having events throughout, of course, following CDC guidelines. I would like to extend an invitation that our next event will be April 17 at Las Palmas Community Center. That's a place where I actually took jazz class, so it's extremely important for me to go ahead and kick off the early voting election that will be kicking off during April. Please feel free to reach out if there's any feedback that you have. We're right now creating the blueprint for our 30-60-90 plan to be able to execute it. If you have any recommendations, we're definitely making sure that our residents come first, not only for District 3, but for McAllen. As I mentioned before, District 3 for me is family and McAllen is home. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Have a good one.
Thank you, Mr. Tamez. Commissioner Quintanilla, I yield the floor to you.
Thank you, Fred. And I want to thank the McAllen Rotary Clubs for hosting this event. And for those of you that are watching, my name is Omar Quintanilla, and I've had the privilege of serving as your District 3 Commissioner over the last 4 years. During that time, we've dramatically improved the drainage situation in McAllen. In just one term, we've gone in a dramatic way to be able to improve not only drainage, but also to help out the small business community during the pandemic. You know, I've, as your commissioner over the last 4 years, I've gone through with the city 2 flooding events, 2018 and 2020, a pandemic. And during that time, I have helped our community as best as I can to be able to improve the small business community, to be able to improve our infrastructure, which I think we've all seen the results of improved infrastructure here in McAllen. And so you've built up that equity in your representative for the last 4 years. And I would ask that you continue to rehire me for another 4 years so that I can continue to implement these programs and projects that I've done over the last 4 years over the next 4 years, so that in McAllen, we can continue to grow, continue to have a vibrant city, a city that is second to none in terms of economic development, in terms of public safety and in terms of basic needs like infrastructure and traffic. And so I'm asking for your vote and your support. Go to omarfor3.com or look for me on Facebook and on Instagram. I hope to meet with you soon. Thank you.
Thank you to Commissioner Quintanilla. Mr. Reyna, it's now your time for closing statements.
Thank you, Rotary. Thank you, citizen McAllen. You know, I have worked for two organizations in my life. The United States Air Force is probably the premier organization in the world. There's nothing like it in the world, not only because of what it is and what it does, but of the organizational style that it has. You know, we live the way we live in this country because of the United States Air Force. No one will ever enter our airspace because of the Air Force. And the experience, the education that I received from the Air Force is superior to anything anyone can get anywhere in the world. You know, I served at SPC for 23 years. We went from a very small institution, a 1,000 student institution, to when I left to 32,000. When I left, we were one of the very large institutions in Texas. There's only 8 that are considered very large. And so that experience that I have, not only from the Air Force, but from SPC, I can apply that experience to McAllen. You know, prosperity is something that I talk about. You have to plan for prosperity. If you don't plan for it, then bad things can begin to happen. So to me, the idea of being prosperous means that we're going to support the business culture. We're going to support the business individuals that are out there that want to invest money in our city, because without them, we're nothing. Businesses bring additional revenue to us. And if they bring additional revenue to us, they will bring additional taxes that we can use. I also believe that the better quality of life. I'm a big proponent of parks. I want to have more parks, not only in our district, but in the entire city, more and better parks. I want to make sure that no one gets flooded, because if you get flooded, your quality of life goes out the door. My name is Reyna. Please vote for me.
Thank you again to all of our candidates. Thank you for tolerating me as your moderator. And I now pass the microphone back to our host, Mr. Dan Worthington. Dan, I believe you're muted.
Okay, am I okay?
You got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Absolutely outstanding debate. Although I've got to say a couple of words. First, go Army, and that's for candidate Reyna. And Fred, the only question you didn't ask was how easily will the University of Houston win the NCAA tournament? Go Cougs. And for everyone else watching, thank you very much. Thank you very much for participating as well. If you're interested in joining Rotary, our 3 clubs meet at different days of the week. We meet at lunch. We meet in the evening. You can find us on Facebook for the McAllen Evening Club, the McAllen Club, and the McAllen South Rotary Club. So once again, for our candidates, thank you so much for participating. It was outstanding. It really was. We are blessed in this city, in my opinion, to have the type of candidates that we had today with you, Mr. Quintanilla, you, Mrs. Tamez, and Mr. Reyna. Outstanding. Thank you for participating. Thank you for watching. Tune in next week, same channel, same time, for the District 1 debate. Goodbye.
Thank you. Great job on your scavenger hunt.
Thank you, Omar. Thank you, Thelma.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you all. Thank you.
What is Rotary? We're a network of people like you. In fact, we're the original social network. More than 1 million of us live just about everywhere you can think of. And we mean everywhere. We get together to exchange ideas, grow our businesses, and make new friends. We volunteer to help our own communities or someone else's. We're right around the corner. Come join us. The name is Rotary. Rotary International.